Every wizard knows that the foundation of a prosperous career in wizardry is a solid dungeon for spellcrafting and alchemical experiments. But what happens when in your studies you are drawn towards experiments of a more sinister nature, experiments that maybe you don't want everyone to see? Well, then you need a secret dungeon within your dungeon, of course. And for all those young, ambitious wizards dabbling in the dark arts, I have come up with a design to hide the entrance to a spiral staircase down into a deeper dungeon. The mechanism can be triggered from multiple different locations and in many different ways, and all you need to successfully hide this in your lair is a wall and a slight elevation change in the floor. Before we get into the tutorial proper, if you enjoy this video and want to help support the channel, leave a like and subscribe. It is free and you can always change your mind. Before we place any redstone, let's talk about how the final staircase will be positioned. Suppose this is a wall of your room. Nothing too exotic here. Find some way to add a 1 block vertical change in your floor, with a slab functioning as a step up. Again, this shouldn't be too hard, besides this makes the room look way cooler than if the floor was just flat, so anyone looking at it will probably be too distracted and in awe of your building skills to even consider there's a hidden staircase there. Anyway, these are now the blocks that will move when the hidden staircase is revealed. I will call them block 1, 2, and 3. When the door is opened, the first and second block are pulled down and the third block is pulled to the side, revealing the spiral staircase. All of these mechanisms are triggered by observers looking at a single redstone line. I started calling this line the aorta because all the door pistons are linked up to it, as well as all the ways the door can be opened and closed. We'll get more into those later on in the tutorial. I've been playing around with different configurations of the moving blocks, and there are ways to make it completely flush with the floor or ways that remove the need for a nearby wall, but ultimately I landed on this design because I think it is the cleanest and simplest one of the things that I tried. With that said, let's jump into the step-by-step tutorial. These are the materials that you will need for the redstone version of this build. Pause the video to make your shopping list, and as always make sure that you have plenty of building blocks and redstone dust on hand to reroute things if needed in your particular case. Below block 1, leave a 1 block gap and place an upward facing sticky piston. Make sure there is a solid block below that piston, and diagonally from there, place another solid block with a redstone dust on top of it. From block 2, go down and leave a gap of 4 blocks. Stack 2 upwards facing sticky pistons on top of each other, place a 4-tick repeater going into the bottom of those 2 pistons, place an observer facing downwards above this repeater and place a block above that observer. From block 3, leave a 1 block gap to the side and place a sticky piston facing sideways. Below this piston, place a solid block, again diagonally downward from that another solid block with a redstone dust on top. Now leave a 1 space gap behind the repeater of the block 2 redstone and run a straight redstone line for a few blocks like so. How this exactly runs doesn't really matter, just make sure you have enough signal strength to reach the end of your line. If your line will be longer than 15 blocks in total, don't worry, just place an observer in it like so. This will function as a repeater in this application. The final step of the door mechanism is to place observers that link all the redstone together. So go to the solid blocks with the redstone dust on top for block 1 and 3 and the repeater for block 2, and place an observer facing the aorta directly next to them. We place these last so that your door doesn't go crazy as you finish up the redstone, but if part of the door ever triggers by accident, don't worry, just break the blocks that were moved and place them in the closed position again. You will now be able to test this mechanism. Just place a lever next to your redstone line and flick it to open the secret passage. In my final design, I also added some blocks that close the spiral staircase from the bottom so the player can't go up it and see all the naked pistons, but that is just totally optional. They are effectively the same redstone as we used for block 3, just in a different location. With the door in place, let's talk about how to trigger the whole mechanism. You know those light switches at the bottom and top of stairs that control the same light? How do those work? I have no idea, but I knew that I wanted this door to behave in a similar way. And one way that I found to achieve this is by placing a lever on a block, a redstone dust behind that, and an observer looking at the redstone dust. This observer then sends a pulse into the aorta, and this way it doesn't matter what the state of the lever is that moves the door, just that it changes. And you can theoretically add as many levers as you want, and they will all trigger the door to open when it is closed or close when it is open. In the intro video I also used an item barrel as a trigger mechanism by placing a comparator behind it. Basically anything that will cause an observer to fire a redstone pulse will work. If you want to get really fancy, you could add an item filter so that you need a special key to open the door, or hook it up to an AND gate to make sure that you need to do multiple things to open the door, but those are topics for a different tutorial altogether. I should note that this setup assumes you're the only one triggering the door, by the way. I've not tested what happens when multiple people try to control the door at the same time, but the answer is probably chaos, so best not to try. As always, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, that all the steps are clear and that you find some place to apply this in your world. Let me know in the comments what you ended up building with this, I'd love to hear it, and if you have any questions do let me know as well, of course. I wish all you ambitious wizards good luck in conducting all those sinister experiments in your extra secret dungeons, and I hope to see you next time.